إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Moving on with our series, today we will speak about طاعون العام. We will speak about the pandemic that has taken place or that happened 749 years after Hijrah. Now, we will understand why I am calling it a pandemic. The books of history refer to it as طاعون العام, which could be translated as a pandemic, a worldwide crisis. It happened also in different countries. You will see the record that is there in the books of Islamic history, what exactly transpired. That's about plus minus 700 years from this point, from the year that we're currently in. Here, according to, now I'll be using, my sources will be generally, I'll be using Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya of Ibn Kathir, and together with that I'll be using Badlul Ma'un fi Fadl al-Ta'un of Hafidh ibn Hajar rahimahullah. I'll of course put them together for you, and in a story form I will explain it to you. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentions in 749, now the incident is also under the year. Hafidh ibn Kathir writes in his Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya in that form. He writes year by year and occurrences and things that happen in that particular year. So he says, Bada'at fil Qirm. This particular plague started in Crimea. Qirm, he used the word Qirm, which means Crimea. Crimea is a place in Eastern Europe which is currently in dispute. Some parts of Europe wants to say that it's part of Ukraine, and others feel it's part of Russia. So currently it's in a dispute, but it's under the administration of Russia. Qirm in Arabic it's called. Crimea in English. Crimea, the problem first started in Crimea. Or the people of Sham came to know about it when it devastated Crimea. People who were traveling from that part of the world coming to Sham explained to the people of Sham regarding the situation of Crimea. It was devastating. It had a very devastating effect, and it was very rapid. It moved from one person to the other very, very quickly, and big numbers of people were passing away. It moved on to, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says, a place called Al-Firanj. Al-Firanj. And a Firanj is Frank, which is Western Europe. In the Middle Ages, in those ages, about 700 years from now, when you say Frank or Al-Firanj, it would mean the Western Europe. So it also moved on to the Western Europe, and it had a very devastating effect. It actually, the news that the people were receiving in Sham, that is in the Syrian region, was that big numbers of people were passing away in Western Europe. And again, there were other reports that were coming from a place where Ibn Kathir refers to as Qurbus. Qurbus is the Arabic name of Cyprus. According to Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, says information that we were receiving, at least 50% of the communities that live in Cyprus passed away. 50% of the people living in Cyprus passed away. There were areas that was abandoned during this particular place in Cyprus because everyone in those areas passed away. This was the devastating effects it had. Now the pandemic moved on to Gaza. Now it came to the Muslim world through Sham, through Gaza. If you understand what I'm talking about, or for those who traveled before, they will understand that Cyprus and Gaza are not far away from one another. In Gaza, the Naib, the man in charge of Gaza, which is in Palestine, wrote a letter to the man in charge in Damascus. So he wrote a letter to them explaining to them the current situation, or the situation in Gaza. And he says from Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, till the 10th of Safar, over 10,000 people passed away in Gaza. Now, from Gaza, the sickness was discovered from Gaza. It was discovered in Beirut. And then going to the rest of Sham, the rest of the Levant, and the Syrian region. Now, how that happened was generally because, remember, Beirut and Gaza are both on a coastal land, on a coastal. They are now people would travel by water from Gaza to Beirut, and from Beirut to Gaza. Even if people wanted to go to Damascus, mostly people would travel from Gaza to Beirut, which is about 300 kilometers. But by water, they don't have to carry their belongings, they don't have to walk. It was easier. And then when they get to Beirut, then they would rather walk for 100 kilometers to Damascus, which was the central of that part of the Muslim world. So it was easy for them to travel like that. They preferred traveling by land, by foot, for about just about 100 kilometers, then traveling for over 300 kilometers right from Gaza to Damascus. So the sickness first devastated Beirut. It was so common. People were dying in big numbers. And by Rabi'ul Awwal, Hafid ibn Kathir rahimahullah writes, people in Sham, in Damascus and its surrounding, started panicking. People around Damascus, they started panicking a lot. On one day, on the 7th of Rabi'ul Awwal, people gathered, and there weren't even so many cases there at that time. But people gathered. People were so scared, and people started doing things, different things. They get together after one Jumu'ah Salah on the 7th of Rabi'ul Awwal. People started reading Bukhari, and they read Bukhari from cover to cover, begging for the mercy of Allah Ta'ala. Because of course in Bukhari they felt there are many narrations that got to do with the praises of Allah Ta'ala, the qualities of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So it will attract the mercy, and it's all authentic narrations. We're sure that those things were said by Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam regarding Allah Ta'ala. So they took the entire Bukhari from cover to cover and they read. And then they did different things. Someone told them, I had a dream and you must read Surah Nuh, Inna arsalna Nuhan, so many times. And they read that they read that thousands of times. And they started panicking a lot. In Rabi'ul Awwal, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says, ta'attalat masalihun nas. People were unable to meet their basic necessities. People were unable to attend to their basic necessities. It was crazy. It was out of control. On the 16th of Rabi'ul Awwal, about 16 people's janazah was read after the Dhuhr Salah. About 16 people's janazah was read after the Dhuhr Salah. Dhuhr Salah carried on. The salahs were carrying on as normal. He says on the 16th, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says, on the 16th, about 300 people passed away in just Damascus. How did they know? By people, the different masjids. That's the janazas that were brought to the masjids. So the different masjids, the janazas that they read, they put the numbers together and they figured out that about 300 people passed away on that particular day. It was but out of control. Now, also according to the book of Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah, we come to know that dogs were dying a lot. Big numbers of dogs were also dying. And dogs were not domesticated, or they weren't regarded as pets in Sham at that time, because that's against the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, there were a lot of dogs around, especially on the outskirts. Now he says, there were a lot of dogs and there were dogs that were dying, and people felt that these are the dogs dying in this big numbers and so many dogs sick around is adding to the problem, is adding to the plague. So they decided that they are going to get rid of all the dogs in the town. The leadership gave permission for that. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah says people took their weapons and started searching for dogs, and people started clearing the dogs from the area. And this was also for the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu says, "Kana Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ya'muru biqatl al-kilab." Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to command us to get rid of dogs and to clear them from Medina. There's a hadith of Muslim. In a hadith, narrated by Abdullah bin Mughaffal radiyallahu anhu. He says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, لَوْلَا أَنَّ الْكِلَابِ أُمَّةً. If the dogs were not a nation of their own, لَأَمَرْتُ بِقَتْلِهَا. I would have commanded you people to completely get rid of them. There shouldn't be any dogs on the face of the earth. But this was not, of course, they are a nation on their own. However, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam discouraged that dogs should be regarded as pets, or puppies should be domesticated and regarded as companions, which we do. This is, of course, a man's mindset that we got from the West. And we always want to twist and turn the deen of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala from time to time to try and accommodate ourselves. And that's what we generally do. Umar radiallahu anhu كان يأمر بقتل الكلاب في خطبته. Al-Bidayah wal-Nihaya, Hafidh ibn Kathir rahimahullah says, Umar radiallahu anhu used to command the people and tell them, any dog you see around Medina, make sure you get rid of it. You kill it. Why? Because dogs would come into the houses of the people. In the house in which a dog is found, the mercy of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is not in that house. You see, nowadays what we do is that we think of all the ahadith of the mercy of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and how kind we are, or how kind we should be when it comes to dogs. But our own siblings, we can't get along. Well, we deal with kids. We really deal with kids. We see kids every day. And we find that brother and sister can't get along. They can't say, they're so young, they're so small, under 10 sometimes. They cannot get along. They always differing in different positions. However, when it comes to the dog, and then they will say, oh, so sweet, so cute, and then they will think, oh, we should be merciful, we should be this. Now, we have forgotten. We have forgotten that we must be merciful. We forget those same narrations in the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam regarding being merciful and being kind when it comes to those people or those things where we were told to direct our mercy to. We were told to look after our own siblings and to be kind to them. Then we don't see the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when it comes to puppies and things that we were told to stay away from, we all of a sudden think of the fact that we're supposed to be merciful and we're Muslims. So that is what happens. Now that's the ups and downs of life. Yes, of course, there was permission to looking out to maybe keeping dogs on strict conditions, and only at certain points. For example, if the person wants to use it as a hunting animal, so a hunting dog could be kept. And inshallah, there's a topic on its own, what types of dogs we can keep or not, which we will inshallah discuss one day. But the point is, in most cases that we do today, in most cases we were told to stay away from that dog. But we want to keep dogs, we want to keep puppies. And tomorrow when sicknesses come to us, then we'll be wondering, we'll be worried, and we'll be wondering where this problem is coming from. The problem is coming from us not understanding the teachings of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His Messenger. Moving on, the Khalifa at that time found it fit that every dog in Damascus and its surrounding should be cleared of dogs. And they decided to venture on that particular project. They carried on, they did that. And it was a serious problem. That was on the 21st, the commandment was given. On the 23rd, it was decided that 3 days of national fasting day should take place. 3 days of a fasting day. That was the 23rd, 24th, 25th of Rabi'ul Awwal. Everyone started fasting. The 26th, the 4th day, was a day of Jumu'ah. Everyone gathered on the day of Jumu'ah after fasting for 3 days. And they started making a lot of dua. And people were begging Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and crying. However, problem only increased because it was a time of a test. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wanted to test the people. Moving on, like we mentioned before, in Rabi'ul Awwal, ta'attalat masalihun nas. People were unable to attend to their basic needs. No businesses were operating that time. Right? People were unemployed. People were sitting at home, unable to attend to their basic needs. But masjids, they would only come out to the masjids. And you will see throughout the month, people kept the masjid, kept the masjid kept to the masjid and stayed and made their salahs and du'as in the masjid. And eventually Allah Ta'ala took away the problem. Now, approximately in the middle of Jumadul Akhir, which is the 6th month of the Islamic calendar and the lunar calendar, death became excessive. And the number of fatality or the fatality rate was way out of control. People could not even understand what was happening. In Rajab also, that's we're talking about in Sham. We will go on to other towns, inshallah. In Sham, in Syria and its surrounding, in the 2nd of Rajab, in Dimashq, Damascus itself, after the Dhuhr Salah, in the main masjid of Dimashq, about 41 janazas were read. On the 12th of Rajab, things even got worse. On the 12th of Rajab, a masjid called Al-Jami' Al-Umawi, about 150 people's janazas were read. On that particular day in Damascus and its surrounding, just Damascus and its surrounding, about 1,000 people passed away. They introduced, they've introduced few things, and that's inshallah our next focal point. We will speak about what have they introduced and what have they done regarding the spread of the virus. May Allah Ta'ala make us those who take heed and who learn from the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.